Hey everyone, before I get started, I just want to remind you that if you like my content, hit that like button, subscribe to my channel, and then join the Militia Man and Crew Patreon community by clicking the link in the caption. Hey everybody, it's Militia Man here. Hey, it's Saturday night, and we're going to go over a few things tonight because there's been a lot of good information out in the marketplace today as far as news yesterday, this last week, today. All kinds of things are really good. To rewind just a little bit, we had a lot of things that happened as post the Istanbul, post New York, post Washington D.C. meetings with the United States Treasury, the Central Bank of Iraq, the U.S. Fed. All those things are a little bit behind us, but they're still sort of relevant because of those actions that they had. And those actions are created an environment that created a little bit of instability into the street local markets, and I think you guys are aware of that. Not to dwell too deep on it, the fact remains is that the new electronic platform created a problem, the shortage of dollars, which created the environment on the street, made the exchange rate on the street to go parabolic, if you will. Well, the U.S. Treasury or the U.S. Fed decided, along with the central bank, to downplay some of those restrictions because to get onto the platform, merchants needed to have all kinds of different documentation and to be up to speed, have bank accounts, have an ID, have an address. They needed to have those things, and about 85% or 80% of the merchants didn't have those things. And so therefore, when they locked down the dollar the way that they did, it created a shortage in a lot of different products and stuff. And so that type of thing needed to be sorted, and that has been done. What they did, in my view, is that the central bank worked with the U.S. Fed. We'll leave it at that. UST, U.S. Fed, to reduce those restrictions, and then to get a little more education and everything, so that the merchants could get to the banks and could open up these accounts with a little less stringent restrictions. And so that process has been underway, and we see that by having the Iraq regional commercial bank, private bank, the Kurdistan region get online, and they're there. And there's the South Bank, they call it, or I think it's called the Al Janoub Bank, which is similarly in compliant. And being in compliance means that they all have the bank accounts, they have all the technology, they've had the education, they're licensed, and so they're gearing for those merchants to come in. The more the merchants come in, the more the stabilization. That's one of the things that the UST and the United States Fed, along with central bank, what they wanted to do was to stabilize the street rate, local rate, to get to a point where they can make that stable. And that's where the whole thing was, the stabilization. So, okay, so yeah, like I said, the stabilization is one of the key things that we're going to see, and they're working on that. And today we've seen some of the things, the street rates coming down. It's been fluctuating, but it's been coming down and getting to that stabilization point. But keep in mind that this whole event that has been happening, like I said, there's all those older meetings in the last 2 weeks have come to a security meeting with al-Sudani in Munich and in Germany. But prior to that, the historic event was that the meetings in Washington, D.C., they were all about economics. They were all about the exchange rate. They were all about reforms. They were all about Iraq moving to a private sector. And all of those meetings were successful. Everybody's in agreement. You remember all the words, the coordination, the cooperation, everything. All those things happened, and they happened quickly. And so they're back. Al-Sudani is now, for the next 2 days, since the 17th, is going to be having meetings. He had meetings within 24 hours of 18 different high priority people around the world. So they're all happy to move to that economic forum. And that economic forum is now about security, stability, But since they had that forum that wasn't about security and stability, it was all about economics. This one is a little bit about security and stability, but it's also about economic reforms. It's an add-on. And so I'm assuming behind the scenes, these guys are still probably, hammering out some deals and things of that nature, but they're literally talking about economic reforms as a priority. And one of the main focuses, I would assume, with energy, energy comes, if you have stability, you have security, and you need energy, you need electricity. They're working on that, and that is one of the primary focuses is oil and gas. Iraq has been kind of held on to Iran for billions of dollars a year to pay for gas, which is a feedstock to produce electricity. The goal of these meetings, in essence, has been to get Iraq to be energy independent and not dependent on other countries because they have so much natural resources. And so what we're seeing now is that they're weaning them off, and they have fixes for it. You have electricity companies from Germany, you have the United States, you have different names. You have a conference yesterday or today that was, well, they call it the second conference with oil and gas. Gas is their main feedstock for electricity. Oil's been huge, but it has shocks because it's dependent on the global market price. So what Iraq is trying to do and what the world's trying to do, United States, Europe, everybody is trying to get Iraq to get energy independent, and what comes from that is that they can produce their own natural gas. They're going to get all those things that we've talked about in the past, which was the taxes and tariffs at the borders, the oil revenues, but the natural gas. They'll save or produce at least $6 billion a year in natural gas, the feedstock, to be able to have 24/7 electricity. When you go into the banking industry needs 24/7 electricity. They can't be down. For payments, cross-border payments, they need to have electricity. So what they're going to do is move this country into a situation, and they're doing it today. And as we speak, they're still in these meetings to move the economic reform of the country of Iraq, and we can see all the evidence of it. All that evidence that we can see is really coming back to is that they're going to move the environment. It's going to be conducive to investment, because investment's going to come from oil and gas and all kinds of different things, the reconstruction of the country. But that's where they're at. They're moving this country to an environment that isn't conducive to investment. So as we go forward, they found, and they're going to talk about this in the coming days, I believe. They found massive oil deposits and gas. I think it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 kilometers in distance and in size, and it has billions of metric tons of oil and natural gas. And they're talking that they're going to be telling us about that in a couple of days. So with that said, the Council of Ministers are expected to have a vote on Tuesday for their 2023 budget. I think we all know that we've been waiting for this to happen, and they've been pushing it out, and haven't discussed it for months. And they have now said that they're going to have it on the table as early as Tuesday, potentially to the Parliament by Wednesday, Thursday. We all believe that you need to have an exchange rate for that to happen. So will they expose that exchange rate that's going to be to the budget by the CBI prior to giving it to the Council of Ministers, or to the Parliament? That's something to be seen yet. We should be looking for that. We should also realize again that this whole process is going to be based off getting to those points and getting to this market economy, or getting to that private sector, is that these merchants that we've noted from the Al Janoub Islamic Bank, the Iraq Regional Commercial Bank, are all geared towards automation, digitization, and it's all for merchants to get onto the platform so that, again, back to that stabilization of the currency, that's all today. That's what they're doing. They're telling us all of this. And so it seems to me that they've got such a forward push to have an exchange rate adjustment to meet an international standard. It's right before us, because they did say that they were going to stabilize the currency on the street, and the street rates is coming down. It's not, it went from as high as 1750. I think today they've published that parallel market is about 1500, 1550. So it's actually moving down. So all those things are pretty good. There's that fifth round of licensing for oil contracts. Those oil contracts are dealing with China, the Emirates. They're big, they're massive. Some of them, they don't tell you how big, but some of them they do. It's pushing 5 billion barrels of oil, 5 billion barrels of oil for a couple of different deposits. And that's not even including the trillions of metric tons of liquid natural gas. And so those contracts are at play, and they're talking about them being signed this week, this coming week. That's Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, according to them. Those are the final signing. They said they already signed them, but they're going to have a final signing. So for whatever that's worth, we'll have to move from that. Today, there was an article that comes out that talks about the agenda for the Parliament and the readings, the first and the second reading of the first finance data. Forgive me, but I don't have it in front of me. But the bottom line is that information today is talking about, if we go back in time, we had specific things that needed to be done and were done, and that dates back to all the budgets from 2014 to present. They needed to be audited. Those budgets were audited. This piece of information that we got out today from their agenda suggests that they're reading that law that ends the 2022 budget. And if it ends the 2022 budget, it's been reconciled. We believe that at the IMF Article 14 meetings with the Council of Ministers, also with the Ministerial Council of Economics, they closed that out on the 30th of November. And so at this stage of the game, that reading suggests that that's an old process from the 2014 to present has been sorted. And that's what they're voting on. And that is supposed to be all sorted within a very short period of time. So what I'm trying to say is that this development investment that the Munich meetings are talking about is powerful, because everybody that are at these meetings, they say it's like one of the world's largest and most important meetings, is being successful. And we're seeing that come to an end, and we're seeing it real time, and we're seeing it on a Saturday night. So let's just see what comes in the next short period of time. They're going to keep telling us all the information that we need to know, and everybody should be just like hopeful and thankful that at this stage, with all the information that we're giving at Militiaman and Crew on Patreon, should make you happy, should make you look forward to catching up. If you've missed some of the things that I've talked about, almost everything I've talked about is within the Patreon group and the community. Love to have you stop by, and by the way, subscribe, and if you have the opportunity, want more work and support, click that donate button. Appreciate it. Once again, guys, don't forget to hit that like button if you like this content, subscribe to the channel, or join us at the Militiaman and Crew Patreon community for even more exclusive content. You can also donate to this channel by hitting the links in the banner to help keep this page up and running. Your generous support is greatly appreciated, as always. Much, much appreciated. Thank you so much, and have a great day.